Hi, I'm Greg. I'm a communication thought leader and your guide here at polycommunicate.love. Today, I'm going to go through the top 5 things that polyamorous and non-monogamous people do not know about communication. And I know that I'm pushing you a little bit because you all are connoisseurs of communication. And you do know a lot. You really do know a lot. But there's some critical things you don't know, and they're actually causing you endless drama, torment, all of it. So let's start off with number 1, and that is that communication does not have to be hard, even when it feels hard. Now, this is a big secret that communication feels hard because you think you have to make it happen. You're pushing the boulder up the hill. You don't. You don't have to push that boulder. Communication is a natural function of the interpenetration, yes, I said interpenetration, of our human personalities, our energies, in every situation possible. Communication is there. It exists. All we have to do is tune into that. So it's not something that we have to push or press or force or any of that. If you're trying to force something to happen, it will feel hard. Now, why is this? It's because your communication isn't owned entirely by you. You're a part of it. That's true. Your partners, or partner singular in the moment, they're part of it as well, including them holding different opinions, having different experiences, just having a different take on what's going on. The wind outside the window is a part of your communication. The jackhammers in the damn building next door that they've been building for months, that's part of your communication. That's a painfully true story. Your lack of sleep from the jackhammer is keeping you from taking a nap during the day, whatever it is. Your sick dog barfing in the middle of the floor, right, when you're trying to make your point. That's part of your communication. So if you've got a frozen or fixed set of ideas that you're hoping to push from your side to their side, all of this other stuff will be interference. I didn't get to make my big point. But relationship and communication are not made out of one person's opinion or agendas. It's just not. It's not just my desires that makes communication. Communication is a flow. Listen to what I'm saying. Communication is a flow of interdependence between us that is entirely alive. Some say communication has its own life separate from the individuals. Like you actually come together into a thing. And it has its own things it wants to say. So it's its own being. And can we listen to what that relationship wants to say to all of us as individuals? So there's number 1. Now, number 2, don't just give in to your partners. Okay, so maybe that seems like I'm contradicting the last one, and I am a bit. Everything I'm going to tell you is about balance. The approach I'm presenting is not about black and white thinking. It's about living through our inherent interdependence with others, and you as an individual are part of that interdependence. Your desires, your pains, the things you long for, the things you fear, all of that. And that includes the things you really wanted to say in that conversation. So there's the paradox, right? It's like, it's more than just you, but you're a part of it, and you're an important part of it. So if you've been holding back with your partners, consider taking some risks. Even if it risks them, pulling back a little bit or pulling back a lot. I mean, don't you want them to love you? Not just some simulation of you that is, more convenient, but isn't genuine. Don't you want the real love? So number 3, and I want to say I'm moving through these quickly because there's a whole weekend of material on each one of these we could go into, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. So number 3, sometimes it is okay to withhold your true feelings. Okay, once again, it seems like I'm contradicting the very last thing I just said. And that's true. It's balance. It's about balance. It's about doing the right thing in the right moment. So there are times when you do withhold what is going on with you. And those are the times, listen to me carefully, those are the times when somebody is in a crisis and you are providing care to that individual. There are times not to get into the ticklish details of how you feel. Now, this is obvious if somebody just got in a car accident or their cat just died or they just lost their job. But in another moment when this is crucial is when somebody is currently in a deep crisis of confidence. They have temporarily lost their sense of their own decency as a human being, their own value, their own worthiness, their own goodness. And this can be something that just came up 2 minutes before in the conversation. And maybe it only lasts for 2 minutes more. But during that period, this is the crucial period not to interject complications. So why do we stop? Why do we withhold what we want to share in this moment? Now, one reason is out of compassion for our partner or partners, plural, because, we want to have compassion for them. But also let's be realistic. Maybe we're fed up with our partner right in that moment. We just don't have the capacity to tap into compassion. It still doesn't matter. Even if you're not feeling compassion in that moment, you can just know this is not the time. People who are in a crisis, so your partner or partners are in a crisis of confidence in themselves, they cannot receive. This is the moment when communication stops. It's nobody's fault. They're in a crisis, you want to be heard, and it's not possible. So even if this is true, even if they're nodding their head and saying, keep talking to me, but you can feel something's off. And they're actually a little bit unplugged in that moment. We know this because we feel the same way. We know that when we're in that kind of state, when you lose track of your sense of your decency in the world, your lovability, you say, I'm just such a screw up and I'm worthless, and all these terrible things we say to ourselves. We're going to deal with that in further videos. In those moments, we just don't have the bandwidth to take anything else in. We're feeling sick to our stomach, we're feeling weird, and we have self-hatred and doubting, everything about ourselves. We've all been in this mind frame. And in that state, can we actually hear somebody and they're saying all sorts of complex emotional details, blah, blah, blah. When we were at dinner and you said this, and then Suzanne said something else, blah, blah, blah. For us, it's like the old cartoons, the really old cartoons of Charlie Brown and the teacher and Charlie Brown, wah, 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 nothing's coming through. We can nod our heads, nothing's coming through. So whoever it is who's trying to speak in that moment, when the listener is overwhelmed, you're just pouring your heart down the emotional storm drain. It's not useful. Don't waste your words. Learn how to wait until someone is available again. And thank the gods, none of us hate ourselves full time. Not even the person who hates himself a lot hates himself full time. There's moments when we're open. And there will come a time for you to say what you want to say if you can hold steady and wait for that moment. So meanwhile, what do you do in the meanwhile? Focus on listening first and foremost. Switch out of the agenda for a moment of what you are really excited to say and switch into listening. Receive. And find something that person is doing that is positive. This is very, very helpful for somebody in crisis. And I don't care if it's the tiniest thing. I don't care if it's like, I just want to appreciate the fact that you called us all together to have this conversation. This is an important conversation, and that was a great intuition. Something so basic. And here's my tip. Don't overplay this. Don't go on and on about how great the person is. That actually might make them feel terrible. Just in a very straightforward way, offer something encouraging. Tiniest little thing makes a huge difference. It opens that door just a little bit to the idea that they're actually not a bad human being. They're a decent human being who might have flaws sometimes, but it's okay. So if the time never seems to come when you can offer something, like your partner is always in crisis, then you're going to have to make a decision about is this the right relationship for you? Are you able to share yourself fully, or are you always in a caregiving role? That's something for you to figure out. So let's move to number 4, which is when to stop talking completely, or nearly completely. So poly people know how to talk. And it's our strong suit, is processing. But do you know when to stop processing? I'm going to do a whole online class just on this topic. There's a key moment to stop. And that moment is when someone is just not able to receive at all. Now, this may sound like the previous situation we were talking about the crisis. But with somebody who's in a crisis of confidence, you're just withholding the things you want to share and focusing instead on what on your partner's well-being and what's going on for them. There's still a lot to say that's focused on that topic, and some real back and forth can happen. If you're able to listen and engage on what's going on for them, they can actually really hold a conversation, and actually it can be quite productive. This is different. We're talking about a further level of shutdown. And this is where somebody really isn't available to receive anything. So this is when somebody's full human capacity goes mostly offline. You've got, think about this. You've got the fanciest software in the universe, but your device is not online. You lost your signal. It doesn't matter that you've got fancy software. It can't work, and you know that situation. So this could be somebody who's just very distracted, like they've got a big work project that's taking up all their mental space. It could be they're waiting for a stressful phone call from a family member, or they're drunk or stoned or just not able to concentrate for some reason. They're having a mental health event right at that moment, whatever it is. So very often in those situations, there's some set of frozen opinions that are blocking their ability to flow with the interdependence of the conversation. So let's not judge this state. We're all like this sometimes. This is not a moral issue. We all get stuck in our heads sometimes, and somebody else is trying to talk to us and we just can't receive. Our opinions take over the whole situation. And we have this sense, like it could be disinterested, like I just don't have the time or energy for this conversation. Or it could be judgmental. What you're sharing is not correct. It could be disinterested, like I just don't have the time or energy for this conversation. Or it could be judgmental. What you're sharing is not correct and I don't want to hear it. Or it could be superior, like I've got a topic that's so much more important than this. Or we could be verging in schmooziness and manipulation. I don't kind of want to, you're talking about this one thing, but I want to steer the conversation to something I prefer. Or there's power struggles. Like I want to lead this conversation. I don't want you to lead the conversation. So these are various ways in which all of us at different times, myself included, can get shut down. And we do this unconsciously. These are often not conscious choices. Once in a while they can be conscious, but often they're just very unconscious choices. And when we're in that kind of mind frame, in that moment, it could be 30 seconds, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 5 hours that we're in that state. nothing can get in. In fact, you could actually argue, and I'll talk about this in future videos, we're actually trying to push everything out. That's why we're shut down. We're trying to push everything out to maintain a belief system in that moment. So not a good belief system, not a positive belief system, but kind of a negative belief system. So the only tactic, if we're with somebody who's shut down like this, the only tactics are listening and very basic mirroring. Saying, what I hear you saying is, right? This is a basic conversational strategy. What I hear you saying is, you feel like I wasn't there for you on Thursday, and that's why you walked out of the conversation. So mirroring has a kind of neutrality to it. It's been called divine neutrality, and I love that term because there's something sacred about being able to stop and not add anything. It's powerful. It's got a kind of soft power because you're not actually battling anybody. You're just not adding any fuel to the fire. And this can feel very, very awkward for those of us who are very, warm people. We like to say all sorts of nice things, make everybody feel good. You're not actually making anybody feel good. Neither are you making them feel bad. Neutral. So the power in this in part comes because when we don't add any fuel to the fire and we don't get that reactivity going back and forth between people, the person who's been shut down may actually gradually, naturally come out of that state. And maybe at some point they say, well, what do you think? Or what's going on for you? It's not a guarantee. But it is something that can happen when we stop the kind of pinball action back and forth between people. And if nothing else, you'll just have time to contemplate for yourself. You'll have enough space to contemplate for yourself. How do you feel? What's really going on from your perspective? So let's move on to number 5, which is that if you don't learn how to connect powerfully with yourself, then nothing else I'm saying will matter. And frankly, no amount of good advice is going to be useful to you. Folks, you have to learn how to stay connected to yourself. And some of you are saying, I'm super connected to myself. I'm always connected to myself. Yeah, okay, sure. When you're watching some random guy on YouTube, that might be true. But how about when, you're wanting to connect with your partner and they're really distracted and they're not listening to you, and this drives you up the wall and you're super triggered, or whatever, work is driving you crazy and it's 2 a.m. and you tripped into an emotional minefield with somebody who you've been really into and you're texting and it's getting weird and you're worn out and triggered, all these things, right? I mean, it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm connected to myself until the moment we're triggered. This is when the training comes in. Training is not for the easy times when everything's going beautifully. You don't need any help there. Training is for the intense times. Those moments when you feel queasy and weird and you start doubting yourself, you start falling into a crisis of confidence. That's when the training in staying really hooked into yourself is important. This is when, for example, when polydynamics get really wild, when there's just so much going on and everybody's affecting everybody quickly, that's when you need to stay hooked in. So what is the training? This is straight up classic mindfulness training. This is you paying attention to yourself. It's not the kind of, let's say, meditation training where you're going to connect with the crystalline light into the higher realms or something like that. And I'm not knocking that kind of meditation. I'm just saying that's not this. You need mindfulness training that keeps you in your body, number one, in your body, in your experience, in your emotions, connected to your mind and your thoughts. If it's a kind of meditation that's working to eliminate thoughts, suppress thoughts, get rid of them, frankly, it's just going to put things off until later. I'm going to be honest with you. You want something where gradually, over time, soothing thoughts is good. Too many thoughts is really a handful, right? When your mind is just flooded with thoughts. But if you can learn how to see your thoughts and not take them so personally, that's incredibly powerful. So, being able to be in touch with your emotions, to be in touch with your thoughts, being in your body, in a room. I actually like to meditate with my eyes open. I have my eyes down, but I have it open. That's my training. And the idea is not to be super cosmic, to be very pragmatic and very boring. It's very boring. Should be boring. But gradually you get used to the boredom. If you cannot sit with yourself and you're too restless physically, you're too restless emotionally, then you need this practice more. Because it is possible. Trust me. I have seen I've seen thousands of people come to get more and more familiar with themselves. And this has been going on for millennia. People have learned how to do this. People in much harder circumstances than you. Trust me. People have been through everything under the sun over the millennia. You can do this too. So this is going to allow you to love more. It's going to bring out your vibrancy, your joy, your intelligence, your ability to stay present. Honestly, and I'm just going to say it, it's going to make you sexier. People who are present are sexy. This is part of why we love really great actors and performers and musicians, is because when they're on stage, sometimes they're very present. Presence is power. So my training's in the Buddhist practice, and everybody talks about like being in the present moment and all of that stuff. Very few people learn how to master that. And I want to push you to consider mastering that. Not just getting sort of okay sometimes at it, but actually learning how to master it. It will make you happier. It will make you more engaged. It will allow you to come up with the right question to ask to your partners right in the right moment. Your intuition gets stronger, all of that. Happiness lives there. Everything you want lives there. So luckily that kind of training in mindfulness is available in many, many places. I'm going to try and post some examples here. We're going to do practice in our online classes. But it's great to find a group to practice with. Makes it a lot easier for you because you can sit there in a room with other people. You can see other humans are there. They're going through it too. You're going through it. It's hard sometimes. It's hard for them. And you can still just be there doing your best. Okay, so if you want training that takes you out of the drama and deeper into love and affection and joy and play, then join our email list at polycommunicate.love. And it's a new project. It's a project that's really near and dear to my heart. But, I've been teaching these teachings for several decades. To apply it to poly and non-monogamous communication is a real joy for me personally. And I'm going to be uploading online courses and other resources. And if you're on our email list, you will find out about those straight away.